Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have another brand new Nanmu figure to take a look at today. We recently have reviewed the deceased version of the Nutcracker Soldier Parasaurolophus from Nanmu. We now have the living versions of both different color variants here to take a look at, and I am super psyched about this. Having a really good JP style Parasaurolophus, like a really good quality model version of a JP Parasaurolophus, is something I've wanted for a very, very long time. So to have one from Nanmu immediately lets me know that I'm going to get probably the best version out there, because Nanmu always has, and I'm certain always will, knock every one of their releases out of the park. So again, I am really hyped for this Parasaurolophus. And you can see, as far as the box art goes, if I take you out here of the stand and go up, we've got two different boxes, basically like a reverse image where the Parasaurolophus is facing one way or facing the other way. The only way to really know which versions you have are the color coordinated sides here. So the bottom one would be the Jurassic Park version. The upper one here would be the greenish variant. So let's go ahead, pop these boxes open, and check out these beautiful Parasaurolophus. So the very first thing that we have here is the usual card from Nanmu, and I think again they've really delivered when it comes to this card. We have a fantastic image of a Parasaurolophus kind of wading in some water, and as we also usually have, we have like some pterosaurs flying in the background. I always love how they really just bring the image to life and just kind of transport you there. Like such majestic beauty in their images continuously. And then probably my favorite area of these cards are the opposing sides that have these incredible hand-drawn images on them, something they've been doing for a very long time, and I love each and every single time they do it, because this is yet again gorgeous, gorgeous artwork. Love these cards, and both Parasaurolophus figures, as far as the living versions anyway, come with the card. The deceased version does not, but the living versions, both variants do. And something else that they come with are these. We have really cool, really small, very, very bright, as you can see my camera can't even handle apparently how bright they are. Let me see if I can reposition this a little bit here. So there we go. We've kind of darkened the image a little bit there, but you can see again we have these really cool Parasaurolophus figures, and this is the first time I think that they've done this, where they've given us a dinosaur that's small like this. We normally get like a human being or something like that, but this time we have a smaller version of the Parasaurolophus. And what I love about this is that it basically looks like the maquette, and I think that is really, really cool. Like, I'm definitely painting one of these to look like the Parasaurolophus from the Lost World, like the maquette version of it, and you can see the sculpt is picture perfect as far as that goes. And I love the fact that probably numerous fans probably wanted this kind of look to it, so they gave us the, mainline model that has so much life to it, not just this stagnant pose. So we have an incredible lifelike version, but they also kind of, want to please everyone, so they gave us this really cool, again, kind of maquette style version of the Parasaurolophus, and definitely awesome of them to include that. And yet again, each Parasaurolophus comes with one of those. And then we've got the base for the Jurassic Park version, and I really think this one looks neat, because just like with the card, you can see how the Parasaurolophus was kind of walking and wading into some water. That seems to be what we're trying to replicate here with the base, because we have kind of like a nice little rocky area with some water running through. Almost makes it look like it's like a stream, or maybe just the edge of a lake, and the dinosaur has just kind of walked in. So that is immediately awesome. And then we've got our Parasaurolophus itself, and man, is that ever striking. Like, wow, that is definitely what you have to say when you see this, is just wow. That is perfect to what a Jurassic Park, well, Lost World Jurassic Park Parasaurolophus looks like. And the coloration is fantastic. The paintwork is fantastic. Of course, the sculpt is fantastic. And to apply our Parasaurolophus, we usually have a little peg right here. So we're going to go ahead and slide the foot in. And there we go. We'll go ahead and get the camera up a little higher again. And something that's a little different that they don't normally include, we actually have a little peg here. And that's not something that you usually get from Nanmu, but I think that they've delivered this peg in here with it, just by the off chance that maybe the leg will warp. If it falls forward, this will help to keep it standing. So really cool idea on the part of Nanmu. Definitely something that I appreciate, because it would be a travesty to have a model this beautiful and then the leg warps, it falls forward or something, just doesn't look as nice. So the peg will, again, help that issue if it happens with the Parasaurolophus. And then we have the green variant and its base, and This one again has the exact same, of course, the exact same base with a really cool water effect on it, but we have a bit more of a greenish appearance to this one, really making it look again like kind of like a dirty pond that it's walking into. And then the Parasaurolophus itself, and whew, that one might actually be better than the Jurassic Park one. Like, wow, is that color ever striking? And somehow they have made that look incredibly natural. I had actually seen a few images of other people who had already received their Parasaurolophus prior to me receiving mine. And from a few images, I think maybe they just had the brightness up or something and maybe took the pictures with like the flash. The coloration looked a little bit too bright for my taste, but that is absolutely not the case. Like here in hand, it is so nice looking. Like all of the color looks so lifelike, so perfect on this Parasaurolophus. As much as I love the Lost World Jurassic Park version of the Parasaurolophus, I think it's safe to say that this here is my favorite of the two, and I haven't even taken a closer look at them yet. We'll go ahead and get this one here on the base as well. So we've got both of our Parasaurolophus now standing here looking incredible, creating a really cool kind of a herd of Parasaurolophus, it seems. It almost looks like the greenish one is actually a little bit higher, like it stands a little bit higher than the Lost World Jurassic Park one. I really think it does. So right there you can see that the height of the crest of the greenish one, it might look a little bit higher than it probably is because this one's closer to the screen, but I definitely think this one is just positioned ever so slightly higher than the Lost World Jurassic Park version. So even though they're basically the same sculpt, there actually might be a slight difference between the two, just maybe like a slight angle difference when it comes to the positioning on the bases. But again, both of these are incredible, as I expected them to be, being a Nanmu product, so let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at both of them right now. So we will begin with the Lost World Jurassic Park version, and even though the body's at a bit of a strange angle to try to get close to the head on this side, we'll do our best, and you can see that the sculpt is beautiful. And one thing I'm actually kind of noticing is the coloration of this one is slightly different from the deceased version. I really did pick up on that immediately because the deceased version had a lot more kind of yellow here in the face, whereas this one does not, and I think that's actually really neat. I can also see a lot more red running along the back of the neck on this one compared to the deceased version, which is also, again, pretty cool. So it's almost like there are three different color variants, even though one is an entirely different sculpt and obviously deceased, but it's kind of like making it look like there's an entire herd of slightly different, well, one not so slightly different, but different coloration of the Parasaurolophus living together, and I think that is a really cool touch on the part of Nanmu. But again, detail-wise, you can see the skin texture here looks fantastic. Lots of kind of cracks and crevices through the face of the Parasaurolophus. You have a beautifully painted eye, nice brown with a black pupil. There's also kind of like a black that outlines it. Nice gloss coat added for that nice eye shine, and it just looks so incredibly lifelike. I think Nanmu has the best eyes on their figures that anybody out there making dinosaur figures currently has. As you run up here into the crest of the Parasaurolophus, and here's another area where I immediately notice a little difference compared to the deceased version. We have a really nice dark brown running the entire length of the crest. You can see the texturing to the crest is fantastic as well, but on the deceased version we kind of had like a striping running up along the crest of the Parasaurolophus, and we don't really see that. I can actually see like some slight hints of reddish browns in the crest as well, running down into the beak of the Parasaurolophus. Some really subtle color variation. You can see the nostrils as well are sculpted beautifully and also highlighted with a darker coloration. And again, there's a bit of color variation to the face. You can kind of see like some slight reddish hints. There's some nice browns, and there's even a little bit of a creamy, kind of like a pinkish coloration there for the lower part of the face. As you start to move down the course of the neck, you do have a nice turn in the neck of the Parasaurolophus, so there's a whole lot of creasing going on here, kind of like you would expect to see. You start to see that stripe running down the neck of the Parasaurolophus that the Lost World Jurassic Park Parasaurolophus are kind of famous for. We also again have that really nice reddish dry brushing running along the back of the neck, and you have some nice variations of browns, kind of like a slightly darker shade of brown, and then down here it's almost like a greenish brown before transitioning to kind of like a nice off-white for the underside of the throat. You can also see some nice curvatures there in the head and neck area, and the wrinkling and creasing there of the skin showing that movement off. You can also pick up on the throat in general running down the neck of the Parasaurolophus. The stripe here, you can almost see kind of like some color variation too, as well as we kind of have like a nice off-white that's been dry brushed with a yellow over top, really highlighting the detail there. And then as you move down into the body, you see some darker shades of brown picking up. You can see it kind of runs up here and follows that stripe. There's also a darker variation of brown that follows the upper side of the stripe. Then we have a slightly different shade of like a greenish brown. And then we have the red starts to kind of fade out here and transitions to a brown as you run along the spinal column of the Parasaurolophus, but there's also kind of like a lighter brown, almost like a khaki, that you can see creeping through all of the creases there in the skin. So just a ton of color variation as always. You can also see that darker brown runs down here under the stomach region, and in the stomach we have some nice variations of browns and greens. So a lot of color on your Parasaurolophus. Again, that's not something that's shocking being a Nanmu release. They always overload their figures with incredible paintwork. You can also see the structure here to the shoulder blade moving down into the arm. Some nice muscle definition there. You start to see some speckles picking up. We have a little bit of a white right there running down into the arm. The elbow is present, and then you can see that both of the hands are in slightly different positions, which I think looks really quite nice. You have some nicely sculpted out nails, some nicely painted nails with a glossy black. And you can see how this arm is held a little bit further into the body, whereas the other arm is extending just a little bit. You can see some beautiful skin wrinkles and skin folds down here. Again, we have a really nice white dry brushing over top of kind of like a khaki brown, so it really highlights that detail as well. And the skin creases are fantastic as you move back here toward the leg. You can see the Parasaurolophus is taking a pretty good stride here, so the skin is really stretching off of the stomach, showing how this leg is trailing quite a bit and is actually up off of the ground again, taking that nice big step. And those skin wrinkles continue the whole way up here in front of the thigh. You could just see a ton of movement there in the step of the Parasaurolophus as far as the skin wrinkles go. And then as you move back here, you start to see the hip bone. You can see more of that kind of beautiful, like yellowish and whitish stripe running along. As you move down into the thigh, you have some more really nice color variation as you have like some variations of greens, then you've got the white, and we even have like a lighter gray under the white, and then you have some beautiful browns. There's also some speckling, and then you have those stripes coming from the back of the leg leading to the front, and man, are they ever nicely applied. Like, stripes are sometimes a painting effect that does not look very natural, but Nanmu absolutely nailed it as far as the coloration goes on this one. Like, they look really good. As you move down the course of the leg, you could see some creasing and wrinkling in the skin there as the dinosaur takes a step. You've got the kneecap here in the front of the leg. You can also see the calf muscle bulging quite nicely as the leg bends, and you can see the foot is up here in the air very nicely again. Basically, you can see the toes kind of recoiling as they're about to lead out and take that step, kind of capturing the moment of the Parasaurolophus walking along and just freezing it perfectly. And you can see that that foot sculpt, even on the underside, looks great. Really highly detailed. And then as you lead up here into the tail, you start to see some more fantastic paintwork, kind of highlighting the skin detail, which is phenomenal through the entire course of the figure. Like, it really has some very highly detailed skin detail. As you continue to move along the length of the tail, you could see it lead out in a downward position, but kind of curve up a little bit there toward the end as we reach that really nice tip, and the kind of brownish dry brushing pretty much overtakes the entire end of the tail. And then if we take a look at the opposing side, you can again see how nice that paintwork is, how beautiful the eye is. You could take note to the ear here, and again, some really, really subtle color variation. I'm really picking up on that reddish brown that is mixing with that darker brown in the crest and beak area on this side. Like, I don't know why, I could just, maybe the light's shining on it a little nicer with this side of the head, but I can really pick out that coloration. You can see more of the red running along the back of the neck again. You see a lot less kind of creasing and wrinkling here on this side of the skin of the neck, because of course the Parasaurolophus has its head turned away from us, so it would be stretching the skin very nicely. Really nice attention to detail on the part of Nanmu. And then as you move down here into the body, you can again make out the shoulder blade moving down into the arm. The arm isn't positioned too far off from what we saw on the opposing side, but you can again see the muscle definition, the elbow, and all of the really nice detail of the fingers, kind of like some scoots down the fingers of the Parasaurolophus. More fantastic coloration. I really love this little area of green in the stomach region. It's just really stands out to me. It looks very, very nice. You can actually see some variations of grays and everything here on this side as well. Lots of skin wrinkles, kind of like what we had seen on the previous side, but we see a little less of the stomach over here because the leg is taking a step forward, kind of obscuring the stomach more so than what we saw on the opposing side. You can definitely make out the spinal column, of course, running along the back of the dinosaur. All of the paintwork, again, continues to look phenomenal on this Parasaurolophus. You've got those stripes, again, leading down the thigh. The muscle definition looks very nice, but it's not overly defined. It doesn't look shrink-wrapped. It looks very, very natural, I would say. You've also, again, got the calf muscle bulging, some more nice wrinkling there in the joint of the knee, as well as the kneecap again in the front. And you've got a really nice foot sculpt with some scoots running down the front of the foot down toward the toes. And again, you have some really nice paintwork for the nails. Looks actually like kind of like a mixture of black and brown at the same time. It's tough to tell exactly. And then you lead up here, you can see the skin stretching off of the tail again. The dinosaur's definitely taken a pretty good walk there, pretty good leap, I should say. And you can see that skin stretching very nicely off of the tail. As you lead out the length of the tail, again, the paintwork looks exactly as it did on the initial side. And you can see that the curve in the tail leans a little bit toward the left of the dinosaur as well. And then as far as the detailing here on the underside, again, it is beautiful looking, and we do even have a cloaca here on the underside of the Parasaurolophus. Some more really nice skin wrinkles as you move through the underside here of the dinosaur. So, when it comes to a Lost World Jurassic Park Parasaurolophus, this is definitely the definitive version, if you ask me, and unquestionably a must-have if you are a fan of that dinosaur or that film. And then since the sculpt is exactly the same, minus the fact that I think maybe the leg might be positioned a little bit higher on this one because, again, it stands slightly taller than the Jurassic Park version, Lost World Jurassic Park version. The only real difference on this one would be the coloration, and man, is it ever nice. So we don't need to go over the sculpt again, but just basically what's different with the color of this one. So you can see here in the face, we have some beautiful purplish tones. We also have kind of like some yellowish green tones, and within those tones, there's also a darker green, kind of a wash, which makes all of that detail pop very nicely. You can see the eye paint, again, it looks exactly the same, I think, as the previous one, as we have a nice brown, kind of a black bordering around it, and a black pupil, and a fantastic gloss coat to it. But I will say the crest of this one is super, super striking. So you can see that we start out with this really nice kind of darker purple, and it all kind of has a bit of a glossy look to it. As we lead up here, you continue to have that purple, but the blue meshes with it. It transitions very slowly to a blue, and the darker purple continues to remain on the crest, but it's kind of like in a wash-like fashion where you can kind of see the purple creeping through the cracks and crevices of the blue areas of the crest, and that is definitely one of the most striking crests I've ever seen, I think, for a Parasaurolophus. That is just absolutely gorgeous looking, the way that that is painted. As you move down the course of the neck of the Parasaurolophus, we continue to have that same sort of color scheme as far as like the design goes, but we have many different variations of color compared to the other one. So we sort of have that stripe again, just like we saw on the last one. This time we have a variation of like brown and yellows on that stripe. You can also see more of that purple running down the back of the neck right there before transitioning to like a light purple bordering on a blue here on the back. So similar color to what we see up there on the crest. You can also see some super nice looking greens here running down the neck, as well as kind of like some brown speckling there. You have a little hint of yellow before transitioning to a nice off-white, and then there's even a nice greenish wash in there. You can see the yellow on the underside of the lower jaw. And then as you move back here into the body, it all transitions really nicely to this kind of light green in the stomach region, really highlighting that detail very beautifully. And you can see the darker green within, again, the cracks and crevices of the skin. You have kind of like a really dark green following along the stripes, similar to what we saw on the last one. You can see that the arm here kind of transitions to a slightly lighter green as you move out into the hand. And you have some variations of kind of like an off-white here running along the back edge of the arm. You see more of that down here running along the stomach, but there's actually like some light hints of yellows and even almost like some light hints of reds running along the stomach. Like there is a ton of color variation in there, and of course, again, the off-white, and you can see that color variation continues all the way back here into those skin wrinkles and folds and everything. It looks super, super nice. As we transition back up to the green body, again, you can see many different variations of green back here in the thigh. Starts out with a really dark green, transitions to a slightly lighter shade, and then an even lighter shade before transitioning to a nice mixture of like an off-white and even like some reddish brown hints of color there. And you can even see again the striping effect that runs down the course of the leg, similar to what we saw on, actually exactly like what we saw on the last one, but slightly different shades of color because we kind of have like a variation of brown with sort of like a black speckling within the stripes. And then moving down into the foot has that really nice greenish tone of color. The nails are painted with what appears to be like a black and brown mixture. My camera is absolutely not focusing on it. There we go. So now you can see the really nice paintwork again of the foot with the nice light green and then the nicely painted nails. And then moving back up here, we have another stripe, like a black stripe right here running out, following kind of along with the light stripe, and there's also like this darker stripe that kind of meets back up with the black stripe. We have some more of like that reddish brown right there, and then the lighter coloration for the underside, and then it all darkens as you reach the tip of the tail. And of course the opposing side is going to look pretty much exactly the same. You can see how incredible it looks on both sides. Nanmu is so good at coming up with really natural color schemes for their figures, but this one is just one of the most naturalistic but flashiest colorations and color schemes I think I've ever seen for a dinosaur, and it just works so perfectly for a hadrosaur. Man, I am just completely blown away by this one. So the coloration again looks great on both sides. The sculpt is unbelievably beautiful, and this is definitely, even though I love the Lost World Jurassic Park Parasaurolophus, this is definitely my favorite version of the two. And then as far as the bases go, we have both bases here. You can see they're the exact same sculpt, but we just have some slightly different coloration for like the rocks and everything, and then the water. The water's a lot darker here on the Lost World version. This is the greenish version. You can see like the green, almost mossy-like look for the water on this one. Even the rocks are different colors. We have like bluish and greenish rocks over on the green version, but on this side we have more of like a gray and brown and stuff for the rocks, even like some reddish rocks. So the base is super highly detailed. I absolutely adore the water effect, especially because in Jurassic Park you see the Parasaurolophus kind of walking into the lake. So it's, again, something that is in a way related to the Jurassic Parasaurolophus. So yet again, Nanmu really creating a very cool product and giving us little, like, almost, I guess you could say, Easter eggs kind of with that fantastic looking water effect as well. It looks super realistic, super lifelike. There's even actually like color variation within the water. You can even see like some slight hints of blues with the greens. And then of course the underside has, and they're both upside down, we'll turn it around. The underside has the, again, Nutcracker Soldier title right there, as well as the Nanmu logo. With a very high quality look and feel, the bases are a great partner piece to these Parasaurolophus. And then we have the really bright white, smaller Parasaurolophus in the kind of standard pose here, that more maquette-like look. And it is a beautiful sculpt, but because it's so bright, it's just really hard to pick up on how nice the sculpt is. But I'll definitely be repainting one of these at some point very soon. Keeping one original, of course, but painting the other one, and I'll probably maybe throw up some images in the community section and, of course, on Instagram and stuff if you follow me on there. So the sculpt is phenomenal. I can tell you it's just as highly detailed as the larger Parasaurolophus models that we have here, but it's just so bright. I really don't think you're going to be able to see the detail all that nicely on it. But a phenomenal addition as well to this set is this incredibly cool smaller Parasaurolophus. As far as a size goes for the Parasaurolophus, for a length on the Lost World Jurassic Park version, of course the length will definitely be the same, but you were looking at about 1.25 feet, so about 12.25 inches, or right around 31.5, closing in on 32 centimeters. And then for a height on this one, you are looking at about a little over 6.25 inches, or 16 centimeters, maybe a hair over. Now I'm very intrigued to see what the height of this one is. Of course, length, we're not going to mess with that. It's the exact same length, there's no doubt there. But height-wise, I just want to see how much taller it is. So look at that, it's about 7 inches, or just about 18 centimeters. So definitely a good bit taller than our Lost World Jurassic Park version. And lengthwise for the smaller one, you have here about 4.25 inches, or 11 centimeters. And then height-wise, a little bit shy of, actually I would say a little bit over 2.5 inches, closing in on 2.75, but not quite or about 6.5, almost 7 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Nanmu Parasaurolophus. And right here, I think, really shows you how impressive these figures are, because they are really big, like quite a bit larger than I expected them to be. And these figures here in comparison, I really think shows that, because a lot of the Jurassic collectors probably have, jumped into the Mattel line at some point, so you might have a human figure, which would probably help to give you a good idea, again, seeing how much that Parasaurolophus there towers over Robert Muldoon. But Mr. Papo Rex there is a pretty darn big figure, and you can see how incredibly large that Parasaurolophus is there next to it. But for another comparison, and we removed one Parasaurolophus just to make the comparison a little easier, but there is the Nanmu female Tyrannosaurus Rex next to the Parasaurolophus from Nanmu, and you can definitely see again that the size is really impressive next to each other. The Rex there is pretty much face to face with that Parasaurolophus, pretty much perfect prey, I would say, for the Rex. Like, you could definitely position them where the Rex is kind of chomping down on the neck of the Parasaurolophus. The Jurassic Park version might actually be even better for this, because it's a little bit shorter than this greenish version that we have here. But for another comparison, male Tyrannosaurus Rex from Nanmu next to the Parasaurolophus. You can see that Parasaurolophus can definitely hold its own size-wise here next to that Rex. And then for another comparison, there is a Kenner Jurassic Park young Tyrannosaurus Rex next to the Parasaurolophus. And then we're just going to do a few randoms. There is a Takara Tomy Stegosaurus next to the Parasaurolophus. The Collectaid Dimetrodon, again, just a few figures that I feel like are fairly popular ones amongst collectors. And then you have the Mattel Hammond Collection Parasaurolophus, which is a very fun figure, but nowhere near the quality and beauty of the Nanmu version here. And the final comparison is the deceased Parasaurolophus from Nanmu, and we now have the Lost World Jurassic Park version here back in next to it, again, to give you an idea of how they size up next to each other. And actually, I will go ahead and pick this up to kind of get up above to help give you a good idea, again, of the size. And you can definitely take notice to the color variations and differences of color between the two, but how similar they look, again, creating a really cool herd of Parasaurolophus, which unfortunately one is deceased. But both of these look fantastic next to each other. Two of Nanmu's best, I would say. So all of these brand new Nanmu Parasaurolophus, the Nutcracker Soldier figures, are drop-dead gorgeous, as they always are. Everything Nanmu produces is the highest of quality. Like, it's amazing how people will go out and spend like thousands of dollars on these high-end collectibles, and then they'll receive something that is just such a letdown because the paint jobs are just never really that good. Sometimes you get lucky, but a lot of the time not so much. Whereas you could just purchase these incredible Nanmu models and you'll get the highest quality sculpt with one of the highest quality paint jobs you'll find anywhere. Both of these Parasaurolophus are incredibly lifelike and incredibly beautiful. Sculpt-wise, again, spot on to what a Jurassic Park-style Parasaurolophus looks like. Nanmu, as always, nails it when it comes to accuracy in their sculpts, and I really do quite like the pose of this one. I love the kind of running position for the Parasaurolophus, almost making it look like it's fleeing a predator. So it's really cool for dioramas, definitely something that other Nanmu figures could kind of stand in, like the Tyrannosaurs, and really create some fantastic dioramas or dinosaur toy photography with these Parasaurolophus. And all of the movement is shown off beautifully in the sculpt of the figure for the positioning of the body. I also love the fact that they included that kind of peg just to make sure if your dinosaur starts to warp, they've got you covered. They've got the ability to balance the figure out regardless. The paintwork of both, again, it's incredible how good a Nanmu paint job really is. If you've never purchased a Nanmu model, you really need to do just that so you can get one in hand and really appreciate how impressive their paint applications are. No matter what dinosaur you buy, it's a great paint job. Trust me, I have so many Nanmu models now in my collection, and they are the highest quality paint jobs that I think I have in my collection when it comes to mass-produced models like this. And this Parasaurolophus, both actually are no exception. The Lost World Jurassic Park one here recreates the colors, I think, perfectly of the dinosaur and just had so much color variation to it, like really subtle color that you really wouldn't notice until you get nice and close and take a good closer look at it. It shows you just how far Nanmu goes to give you a really lifelike looking dinosaur. In my opinion, they go above and beyond when it comes to the paint jobs of their figures. So much life in the figure itself. The eyes are perfect as far as the coloration goes. I really think Nanmu has the best eyes out of any company producing dinosaur figures like this. And again, it's just gorgeous, both of them. I'm definitely partial, though, to the greenish version. Although I love the Lost World Jurassic Park version, the greenish one is just unreasonably beautiful. The coloration, the tones of color, the way they've applied the paint, it's just one of the most majestic looking dinosaur models that I think I've ever seen, just really capturing the beauty of Parasaurolophus perfectly, and again creating a really flashy color scheme that works so well on a hadrosaur, and at the same time creating a perfect partner piece to the other Lost World Jurassic Park version. The bases are also great. I love the water effect on them. I love the rocky area that's around the water. It all looks super lifelike, just like the dinosaur itself. And as usual, Nanmu delivers slight color variants even on their bases, so to kind of mix it up and give you a really cool base. No matter which way you go, again, they are different from each other and both are fantastic. And they have those really cool little extra smaller Parasaurolophus figures, which in my opinion are like the icing on the cake, because I love that kind of stagnant pose that they have, that maquette-like pose. Definitely something that really tugs at my heartstrings, and they are just as highly detailed as the larger Parasaurolophus. So overall, every one of the Parasaurolophus from Nanmu, whether it's the deceased one or the running ones, they're all fantastic and huge recommendations from me. So if you are interested in these, I will include links in the description to where you can purchase these on Dan's Dinosaurs. So make sure you do that. Trust me, you will not regret that decision, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.